Imagine waking up not in your soft bed, but inside a nightmare one soaked in sweat, screaming, and the stench of survival. You are not a gladiator. You are not Caesar. You are the forgotten. And Rome is about to break you. You open your eyes and are instantly swallowed by clanging, a baby's cry cutting through the morning like a blade. Welcome to your life now. A Roman insula. It's not a home. It's a vertical coffin stacked with misery, held together by cracked stones, whispered prayers, and the threat of instant collapse. You live high too high. Third, maybe fourth floor. That means you're poor, expendable, and one olive oil spill away from being crushed to death. When the ceiling above you gives way. This isn't shelter, it's a trap. The walls, they sweat in the summer and shiver in winter. Your room is a suffocating cell with no window, no mercy, and no escape. Light struggles to enter. Air smells like mold, ash, and forgotten dreams. You sleep on lice-infested straw, swaddled in a wool blanket steeped in dampness and despair. You have nothing, a chipped clay cup, a threadbare tunic, maybe a splintered wooden comb if you're lucky. There's no kitchen, no privacy, no fire allowed because if one starts, the entire building could become a funeral pyre. And there are no fire codes. Just fire. The toilet. Don't even ask. Your chamber pot sulks in a corner, full of yesterday's shame. You'll carry it down trembling, narrow stairs, hoping you don't slip and become part of the morning's grotesque street offerings. One misstep and you're a corpse among rotting fruit peels and rat carcasses. And privacy. That's a fantasy. Your neighbor's coughs, moans, arguments, and worse seep through the walls like ghosts. Every sound is intimate, invasive, and inescapable. The air reeks human waste, mildew, burning bread, and sweat. Rome doesn't breathe. It chokes. Downstairs, someone's already shouting over the price of figs. A soldier's barking orders in the distance, his voice soaked in blood and iron. You're not even out the door, and already your paws are crying. You inhale lead dust, and for breakfast, you get fear. No, you're not a senator. You're not a gladiator. You're nothing but a name that won't be remembered, trapped in a city that chews through bodies like bread crusts. And the day has only begun. You descend the stairs of your insulif, they do give way beneath you. And now comes your next great challenge. Where to relieve yourself. No bathroom, no privacy, no dignity. Just you apart, and the public latrina. And, oh, the latrina Rome's gift to humility. A long stone bench lined with holes, each one a gateway to shared humiliation. Beneath it, water trickles through a trench, barely enough to carry the waste of the hundreds before you. If you're brave, if you're desperate, the man beside you is making eye contact. The one across from you is chewing olives, while groaning. Someone's discussing grain prices. Someone else is cursing a bad back. You try not to listen. You fail. Then comes the Tazarima communal sponge. One stick, dipped in vinegar if you're lucky. Passed from stranger to stranger if you're not. You wipe. You pray. You never forget. You try to leave, but there's no soap, no facet. Just a filthy basin where thousands of unwashed hands have mingled like ghosts at a urines. You gag. You leave with your dignity bleeding. But congratulations, you've earned your reward. Breakfast. Except breakfast isn't joy, it's punishment. You huddle in the street, gnawing on parnies. Roost accuse a stone of stale bread, disguised as food. No coffee, no fruit, just grit, grain, wine diluted with water that might kill you slower than hunger. Forget indulgence. This is survival by crumbs. If you're lucky, there's a smear of garum Rome's infamous fermented fish sauce. If you're not lucky, there's still garum, and that smell. That's what hopelessness tastes like. Vendors wander by, hawking pastries, fritters, promises. You ignore them. Your pouch is empty. You bite into your concrete bread and pretend it's cake. Pretending is all you have left. And then, while the sour wine coats your tongue, you remember you still have to walk 7 miles to work. On sandals thinner than parchment. On roads lined with filth, with only your aching legs, your rumbling stomach, and your borrowed will to carry you. Your job doesn't wait. Misery never does. You're not noble. You're not elite. You're just a body Rome uses and forgets. Maybe you're a porter. Maybe you're a sewer cleaner. Maybe you're building temples for gods that will never hear your name. The sun's barely up, but your sweat has already soaked through your tunic. Your tools are primitive. Your protection non-existent. You're shouted at, shoved, humiliated. Late, you're docked. Weak, you're beaten. broken, you're replaced. And the irony, you're part of building an empire you can't even eat from. This is your life now. Every step a trial, every breath a risk, every hour a descent. And it's only morning. Imagine waking up naked, confused, and chained. Your freedom stripped, your name forgotten. Welcome to Rome. Not the postcard version with marble and glory, but the hellish beast it really was. You think you're strong, brave. In the Roman Empire, your courage would be shattered before sunset. You wouldn't last a day, not even an hour, because the Roman Empire wasn't built on glory. It was built on blood, betrayal, and brutality. And you, my friend, are not prepared. This isn't a movie set. There's no director yelling cut. No makeup. No rehearsals. Just reality. And reality, in ancient Rome, was a nightmare wrapped in gold. Let's set the scene. You're a stranger here, a foreigner, no identity, no friends, no knowledge of Latin, which means, to everyone else, you're disposable. You walk the streets of Rome. They're not streets, really. More like open sewers. Human waste, rotting meat, animal blood, and yet, the stench is the least of your problems. A Roman soldier eyes you. You made the mistake of making eye contact. In his world, that's defiance. And defiance demands punishment. Before you blink, you're on your knees. He's beating you, not because he must, but because he can. Because Rome wasn't a civilization, it was a machine. And pain was part of the engine. You beg in English. They don't understand, or maybe they do, but they don't care. Your words are meaningless here. Just like your rights. You think you'll escape. You can't even find water that won't kill you. The fountains flow, sure, but not with purity. Every sip carries the risk of disease. Or worse, suspicion. The Romans had a word for foreigners, papari. You're not exotic, you're not mysterious, you're just filthy, and therefore, worthless. You try to find shelter, but this isn't your world. You have no coin, no connection. Even a stray dog has more belonging than you, and the hunger, it creeps in. There's no McDonald's, no vending machine, just stale bread if you're lucky. Otherwise, you scavenge with rats. Oh, the rats. Massive, fearless, disease. More citizens of Rome than you'll ever be, and they don't share. You see children. You think they'll show mercy? No, they're worse. Taught from birth that cruelty is strength. They laugh when they see you beg. The forum bustles with life. Not the lively kind, but the desperate kind. Every face hides a dagger. Every smile conceals deceit. You want help. Help comes at a price. And in Rome, that price is your body, or your blood. The baths. You've heard of them. Grandeur, marble, steam. But inside, a festering hotbed of power games, disease, and political spies. One wrong word and you're dragged out. Never seen again. Night falls. And with it comes the real terror. No light. No protection. Only darkness. And predators. Thieves, murderers, slavers, and you're the perfect target. Your modern morals won't save you. In Rome, mercy is weakness, kindness is currency, and you're broke. You dream of running. But where the empire stretches endlessly, and every road is lined with danger, you hear cries, a man being dragged, his crime, stealing figs to feed his starving son, his punishment, crucifixion, in public, as a warning, to everyone, and you witness it, up close. As blood pours and lungs collapse, you realize, this is normal here. The Colosseum looms in the distance. You imagine gladiators, cheers, and valor. But what you don't see is the stench of death that never leaves, the screams that haunt the walls, the sand soaked in agony, and you're not a spectator, you're bait. Or worse, entertainment. You're captured. Sold as a slave. The price, a single coin and a shrug. Your name is erased. A mark is burned into your skin. You don't belong to yourself anymore. You belong to Rome. Days blur into pain. You serve, you bleed, you endure. For what? Survival. Even that is not guaranteed. Your owner is cruel. Because cruelty is fashionable here. He beats you for amusement. He starves you for power. And yet, this is just the beginning. Your body weakens. But your mind breaks faster. You begin to forget your old life, your language, your face, your purpose. You are a ghost, a walking shadow in a city of monsters, and no one, not a soul, will remember you. This isn't history class. This is your life now. And every second is a war you're losing. Because, in the Roman Empire, there are no second chances. Only pain, power, and silence. And you wouldn't last a day. You think you've made it through the worst. Think again, because now, you're stepping into the Roman streets where every corner is a trap, every breath is poisoned, and every second tests your will to survive. This isn't a walk through history. It's a war zone with sandals. The sun climbs, and so do the stakes. You've survived collapsing staircases and shared sponges, but now you must navigate a city designed with zero mercy. The roads, a masterpiece of engineering, drenched in filth, rot, and human waste. Welcome to the Roman boulevard of broken bodies. Imagine this. You step off a curb without looking and immediately baptize your foot in raw sewage. You were aiming for the bakery. Now your sandals soaking in yesterday's fish guts and someone's failed dinner. Welcome to your holy communion with Rome. Rats, dogs, goats, beggars, thieves. This isn't a city. 6 languages scream over one another. Merchants claw for attention. Children dart between carts. Soldiers shout, fists raised, and then someone bumps into you. Did they steal your pouch? Or was it just Rome slapping you in the face again? Wagons barrel down narrow lanes like missiles with wheels. They don't stop. They don't slow. If you're in the way, you're part of the street now. Bloodstains dry into cobblestones. Screams echo until drowned by trumpet fanfare from yet another meaningless politician's parade. And what's that smell? Incense from a nearby temple. No, that's the overwhelming stench of open latrines, charred meat, burning oil, and death. Occasionally, someone tosses a dead dog into an alley. The only funeral is a footstep in silence. There's no peace, not even in the air. You breathe in smoke, dust, and decay. And if you're lucky, only half of that is laced with lead. The streets don't float. They snarl, spit, and grind. You dodge a fishmonger's elbow, step around a brawl, avoid being run over by a senator's litter, and somehow keep moving. But every block feels like your bleeding time, soul, and sanity. And when you're ready to collapse, when your throat is dry and your skin is spoiling you, remember Rome's proudest achievement. Yes, Rome built marvels to bring water from the hills. But no, it's not for you. Unless you live in a palace and you drink what everyone else bathes in. And by everyone, we mean every coughing, sneezing, defecating Roman this side of the Tiber. Go to a public fountain, dodge a screaming child being dunked for fun, and cup water shared by 200 strangers, still thirsty. Then perhaps you're ready for the ultimate gamble, Rome's infamous public bath. From the outside, they look majestic. Marble halls, echoing chambers, a symbol of civilization. But step inside, and you're stepping into a bacterial battleground of half-naked strangers who have never heard of soap. You sit in lukewarm water with 12 other men, each marinating in their own filth and opinions. A man scrapes wax from his ears. Another offers to sell you sandals. No one blinks. No one apologizes. Modesty, not even in concept. And the water, it circulates from one room to another, warmed by furnaces, thick with human oils, blood, and secrets. You don't get clean. You get soaked in other people's filth. But the real nightmare, the plumbing. Lid Romans worshipped infrastructure, but chemistry, not so much. Those glorious pipes, they're killing you, softly damaging your brain, your blood, your body. Madness, infertility, gout, and you thought breakfast was bad. Which brings us to the only truly safe liquid in Rome, but not the good kind. No, the average Roman drinks it diluted, acidic, sour, because it's safer than the water. Yes, the empire that conquered continents can't give its people a safe drink. So you sip, you survive, you pretend. Rome dazzles the world, but you're slowly falling apart from the inside out. Now imagine getting injured. Stub your toe. There's no ice, no antiseptic, just a filthy rag and hope. Break a bone. You're lucky if it doesn't heal backwards. Get a splinter. You've just opened a door to infection, gangrene, and an early grave. There are no bandages, no anesthetics, no mercy. Surgery, it's done with blades and screams. No sleeping gas, no numbing agents. Just you, a block of wood between your teeth, and a man who once watched someone else do this. Dislocated shoulder, popped back into place by someone named Gaius who swears he knows what he's doing. dental pain. Picture a blacksmith and a hammer. Now imagine that in your mouth. Women, they suffer more. Childbirth is not a miracle here. It's a coin toss between life and agony. Midwives chant, whisper prayers, and try not to cry when the blood won't stop. No one escapes the pain. It's your shadow, your morning greeting, your nighttime lullaby. Rome teaches you to endure but never to heal. But let's say you've had enough. Let's say you're desperate. You go to a doctor. Except in Rome, medicine is dark comedy. Doctors are barbers, or butchers, or just guys who own knives. The cure for anything. Bleed you. Drain the imbalance. You're sad. Let's open a vein. Coughing. Knife. Cracked toe. Leeches. They wield scalpels without shame. They cut you open with hands soaked in wine and faith. Infection. That's not a side effect. That's the follow-up appointment. You want herbs. They'll give you dung and ashes mixed with beetle juice. No, really. And when it all fails, you're told to sleep in a temple. Pray. Maybe dream of your cure. If you die, maybe it was fate. Maybe it was the gods. But no one calls it malpractice. So you live in fear of doctors, of wounds, of the slow collapse of your own body. And yet, somehow, you endure. Because, in Rome, survival isn't a triumph. It's a sentence. So, you made it through the first few hours. Barely breathing. But don't celebrate yet. Because now, the real nightmare begins. This isn't just surviving. This is the Roman workday. An unforgiving test of body, mind, and soul. And guess what? You're already failing. The sun rises over Rome, not to warm you, but to burn you alive. There's no shade. Just the searing reminder. You are not in control here. You're woken up not by alarm, but by shouting. Orders barked in Latin. Sharp, cruel, fast. You don't understand them. And that's a problem, because in ancient Rome, ignorance is inexcusable, and your confusion, it earns you a lash to the back. Painful, bleeding, but it's just the beginning. You're thrown into a work line. Are you building roads today? Maybe hauling water. Maybe cleaning the gutters filled with human waste. You won't know until they shove tools into your hands. Tools heavier than your strength. Tasks larger than your will. You've never held a pickaxe. Never shoveled gravel with chains on your ankles. But now you must, under the watch of a man who laughs every time you stumble. Blisters burst. Fingernails rip. You're coughing up blood and dirt. But stop it. That's not an option. You collapse once. They drag you back up. Twice. They break your ribs. 3 times. They drag you away. And you don't come back. And while you're suffering, do you think anyone cares? The Romans watch, not out of sympathy, but for entertainment. You're not a worker. You're a spectacle. A reminder to the others what weakness looks like. A human warning sign. Midday arrives, not with food, but with sun. You're dehydrated. But the water is rationed, and you're the lowest of the low. You beg for a sip. They spit in your face. They say, the dogs have earned more than you. And still, you push forward. Why? Because fear is a better motivator than hope. You see others fall. Old men, teenagers. They disappear behind the walls. You hear screams. But no one speaks of it. Break time. There's no such thing. You squat in a shadow. Your body screams. Your stomach groans. But the overseer's whip sings louder. Then, a woman collapses beside you. Her legs swollen. Her hands shaking. The guards surround her. They ask her name. She can't answer. She's from far away, like you. And in Rome, that makes her disposable. She's dragged away by the hair. Her screams echo. And you look down, because making eye contact makes you next. The afternoon heat becomes a second enemy. The tools scald your hands. Your sandals melt into the dust. And the dust becomes part of your lungs. You're not living, you're fading. And that's exactly what they want. You pass the marketplace. You think it's a place of life. No. It's a battlefield. The rich flaunt their wealth. Jewels, perfumes, meats roasted on open fires. But you're the invisible ghost walking past. If you reach out for a crumb, you'll lose a hand. If you speak out of turn, you'll lose your tongue. They sell children here. You see a boy younger than your little brother. His mother wails. The buyer smiles. And you realize, the worst part of Rome isn't the pain. It's the way it numbs you. You begin to accept the horror. You forget your name, your country, your dreams. You remember only the next task. Your muscles feel like burning ropes. Your skin blisters into open wounds. But if you complain, you're called a coward, a waste. The Roman citizen next to you laughs. He says, "This is how empires are built." And you realize empires aren't built by vision. They're built on the broken backs of the forgotten. You hear the temple bells. Religious time. No, a signal. The priest will arrive to bless the laborers. You hope for compassion. But instead, the priest blesses the overseer. He praises the whip and thanks the gods for obedience. You're just a cog in this divine machinery. Evening approaches, but the work doesn't stop. It never stops, not until your hands are stained with your own blood. You spot a fountain nearby. You run to drink. Too late. A soldier spots you, and his boots are faster than your desperation. He beats you, not to punish, but to teach. Later, a patrician walks by. His robe is white, his feet never touch the dirt. He sees your pain, and smiles, because your suffering confirms his power. You are invisible, and yet, you are everything. You are the labor, the brick, the bone, the blood. They say Rome wasn't built in a day, but it destroyed thousands in a single one. And now, the night returns. You crawl to your place in the shadows. No bed, just a corner of stone and silenced. You try to cry, but even tears are too luxurious now. Your body has no water left, only pain, and the whisper of dreams that once were. Tomorrow will be the same, or worse, because in Rome, things only get worse, until you no longer exist. And that's when you realize the truth. You're not surviving the Roman Empire. You're being devoured by it, because this place, this empire, this legend, it was built on you. Think you've made it through the worst of the day, that maybe, just maybe, you'll be rewarded with a moment of comfort. No, Rome doesn't reward survival. It punishes it with a dinner that mocks you, entertainment that scars you, and a justice system carved in cruelty. The sun's setting. You've worked. You've bled. You've dodged carts, swords, and contaminated water. And now, it's time to eat. But this isn't a meal. It's surrender. Your cena, the Roman dinner, isn't pizza or pasta or roasted dreams. No tomatoes, no potatoes, no coffee, no sugar, no joy. This isn't Italy. This is a world before flavor found its way to food. You sit if you can find a spot not crawling with flies and stare into a bowl of hot, brown sadness. Its pools, a porridge of beans and despair. If you're lucky, there's a hint of herbs. If you're not, it tastes like wet graveland even. That's generous. Protein, forget it. Unless you trapped a rat or robbed a merchant, meat is off the table. And if you do get it, it's salted, rotted, or drowned in garum, the fish sauce of nightmares. And that wine, still watered down, still sour, still safer than the water it's mixed with. Every sip is a gamble. Your choices. Slow rot or a faster purge. Maybe there's cheese. Maybe a fig. Maybe a hard piece of bread you gnaw on like a desperate dog. Maybe you're fasting because it's some god's feast day, and gluttony offends him. And dessert. That's a word whispered by the wealthy. You chew, you swallow, you feel nothing. There are no napkins. You wipe your hands on your tunic, the same one you'll wear to bed, the same one you'll likely die in. Your breath smells of garlic, wine, and regret. But it's not over. Now comes leisure. But Rome's idea of relaxation isn't laughter and lullaby. It's violence polished with gold and served on a marble slab. Welcome to the Colosseum. Thousands roar as gladiators bleed for spectacle. Criminals are fed to lions. Rebels are crucified while children cheer. Sometimes, to impress a crowd, they flood the arena for full-scale naval battles. Real ships, real men, real drowning. And it's all free. Not because Rome is generous, because Rome is manipulative. Bread and distraction is cheaper than compassion. You sit in a crowd of strangers, elbow to elbow, sticky with sweat and fear, screaming while someone's head is cleaved from their shoulders. You clap. You don't know why. Maybe because not clapping might get you noticed. Feel sensitive, then try the theater. Maybe a play, maybe a comedy involving Jupiter, sausages, and lewd jokes, so sharp they could cut stone. The actors pantomime gods committing unspeakable acts. The crowd laughs. You die a little inside. Still too gentle for you. Head to the Circus Maximus. Chariot races, no brakes, no rules, and no survivors. Men crash into wood, steel, and flesh while others bet on their deaths. Pick the wrong team. You're risking more than coins, you're risking bones. Even the streets offer shows, fire breathers, poets screaming at walls, philosophers ranting half-naked in alleyways. If you don't like what you see, wait 5 minutes. Another tragedy will stumble by, but all of it, Every act, every scream, every animal sacrifice serves a purpose, to numb you. Rome drowns you in noise so you forget the rot beneath the marble. And if that doesn't work, there's always more wine. Now let's talk justice romance style. I think the law is here to protect you. No, in Rome, the law doesn't shield its slices. Legal status determines your worth. If you're a citizen, you get a trial on paper. If you're not, prepare for branding, irons and whips. They're not people, they're tools. If one kills a master, the entire household could be executed because mercy isn't a Roman virtue. Fear is. Trials are theater. Rich men enter with actus witnesses paid in coin or threats. You bring your tunic and trembling knees. Crying might help. Patronage helps more. Luck helps the most. If you win, you live. If you lose, you bleed. And the punishments? Brutal, creative, unforgettable. Thieves can lose their hands. Liars might have tongues pierced. Fraudsters flogged in public and insult the emperor. You don't get a warning. You get a spectacle execution in front of thousands. Crucifixion, not rare. It's standard, long, painful, purposeful. It's not just punishment, it's theater. The Romans don't just want you dead. They want your death to echo. And the enforcers of this cruel system, the vigiles, a mix of firemen and police, underpaid, overwhelmed, corrupt. If you're mugged, they shrugged. If you bribe them, they become your mugger. The laws are engraved in stone, read aloud in forums, honored by the powerful and weaponized against the powerless. Now, you think maybe the gods will help? That there's comfort in religion. No, religion isn't peace here. It's obligation. Chains made of rituals and fear. You don't choose gods. They choose you. And there are so many. Gods for hinges. Gods for mildew. Gods for everything except relief. You pass a shrine you bow. You forget. Your house burns down. Maybe not today, but soon. And everyone will nod. Ah, yes, he missed the Saturnalia. That'll do it. Festivals flood the calendar, sacrifices, parades, roasted bulls, and public chanting. Miss one, you're cursed. Skip the incense. That's treason. Worshipism. Quiet reflection. It's loud, bloody performance. You must participate. Smile while sacrificing. Sing while the goat bleeds. Dance or be damned. And then there's the emperor, no longer just a man. Now, a living god. You're expected to praise him. Worship him. Kneel when he passes and weep like you mean it. Stay silent during a festival. Suspicious. Don't throw your grain into the flame. Dangerous. In Rome, silence isn't safety, it's evidence. Because when suspicion starts, justice doesn't follow. Punishment does. And if you're part of a foreign cult, hide it. If your god doesn't pay taxes or raise legions, he's not welcome. Rome only honors what it can control. Faith here isn't belief. It's performance, repetition, rituals without heart, gods without grace. You don't get to be spiritual, you get to be obedient. And after obeying the law, the gods, and the emperor, now comes the real hell: social survival. You made it through the labor, through the whip, the hunger, the heat, but now ... Rome wants more. Because this empire doesn't just crush your body, it invades your mind. And today, you will learn how it does that. Not because you choose to, but because the city never sleeps. It hums, it breathes, it consumes. The streets are already alive, vendors screaming, carts clattering, beggars groaning. It should feel like energy, but it's suffocation disguised as civilization. You're herded with others toward the forum, Rome's pride, its political heart. But beneath the marble arches and speeches lies a rotting core. You don't vote, you don't speak, you listen. 2 senators cloaked in wealth talking about justice, while your feet bleed in the dust. A man beside you sneezes, someone spits on him. Plague, they whisper, and within seconds, the crowd separates like oil from water, because fear was the greatest Roman currency. You pass a fountain, statues of gods looking down on you. You wonder if they weep for the suffering. No, they're carved in mockery, not mercy. Public baths ahead. You're told to clean yourself. Rome values purity, but the water is a shared sickness. Every drop holds disease. You strip down, you feel shame, but shame has no place in Rome, only dominance. Eyes follow you, not with attraction, with calculation. Because here, you are always being sized up. You see a man nod to a guard. The guard nods back. Someone's fate was just decided. Maybe yours. You dress and leave, but you feel marked, as if your soul is now tagged. And soon, it will be collected. At the market, something catches your eye. Fruit ripe, juicy. You reach. A child grabs it first. She smiles. Then, a screamed vendor saw her. And in Rome, theft is death. Even if you're 7, she's dragged away. People watch, some smirk, some do nothing. You look away. Because survival means silence. A parade begins. Trumpets blast. Banners wave. And for a moment, you feel awe. Then, you see the prisoners, chained. They're paraded not as criminals, but as trophies. The crowd roars. Not in horror. In hunger. You hear a word again and again. Spectaculum. Spectacle. That's what they crave. That's what you might become. You're pulled toward the amphitheater. You resist. Too late. They need bodies. Not to fight, but to die entertainingly. You're thrown into a holding pen. You meet a man with one eye, no fingers. He says nothing, just stares. You hear the crowd above. They're chanting, not for you, for your execution. A guard opens the gate, points at you. Next, he growls. You step into sunlight, but this is no stage. It's an altar of blood. You expect an opponent. You expect a chance. You get neither. Instead, they release a lion, hollow from hunger, wilder than nightmares. The crowd erupts, not in fear, in ecstasy. You run, there's nowhere to go. The sand burns, your lungs seize, and just before the beast reaches you, it's caught off. The crowd boos, not because they're glad you survived, but because you disappointed them. You are dragged away. No thanks. No relief, just scorn. You return to the streets. People point, laugh. You lived. They mock. Cowards. Live. You wander. You stumble. You end up near the Cloaca Maxima, the great Roman sewer. You peer inside. It swallows everything. Like Rome itself. You see a man tied to a post. Thieves nailed his hands. Not for justice, but for fun. He begs. You can't help. You've got nothing left to give. A priest passes. He drops a coin. Not for the man, but for the rats. You sit. Stare at your hands. They're cracked, burned, not yours anymore. You used to have a life, a name, a dream. Now you are property of the past. And the worst part, you're starting to accept it. Because Rome doesn't just destroy you. It reprograms you to obey, to endure, to forget who you were. And tomorrow, it will ask for even more. You think nightfall means peace? That darkness brings sleep? You fool. In Rome, the night doesn't rest. It prowls, and you're nothing but prey. The sun dips below the crumbling skyline. A brief sigh of cool air whispers through alleyways thick with rot. And for a moment, you think, maybe, finally, you'll rest. But rest is for the rich. Sleep is for the safe. You are neither. Your insular, splintering wooden tenement becomes a death trap after dusk. There are no lamps, no candles. Unless you're wealthy, you stumble through moonlit mazes guided by memory and fear. Trip once, you're broken. Scream, no one helps. They'll strip your corpse before your body cools. The vigils, Rome's night watch, a joke. Overworked, underpaid, corrupt. Some sleep in alleys, some rob the drunks. Others pretend not to hear your screams, and they're not enough. Not even close. Because when darkness falls, the monsters wake. Thieves crawl out from the shadows. Cut purses prowl like wolves. Bored ex-gladiators wander alleys in search of a fight, a thrill, or someone slower than them. You're the perfect target. You walk fast. You keep your head down. You pray to a god you don't believe in, because tonight, the law won't find you. But blood might. And if the knives don't get you, fire might. Rome burns like no other city. Your building, made of dry wood oil and hopeless dreams, is a funeral waiting for a flame. Cooking after dark is forbidden for good reason, but hunger doesn't obey rules. One overturned lamp, one desperate meal. That's all it takes. And when the flames roar through the insula, there's no alarm, no fire truck, no escape plan. Just chaos, screams, death. The Great Fire of 64 CE. But when it did, it taught Rome one truth. Fire is faster than justice. You grab your tunic, your chamber pot, you run, or you burn, or you both. If you survive the flames and the thieves, you still don't get sleep. Because Rome at night is not quiet. It never is. There are parties, drunken processions, screaming lovers, rioting neighbors, priests chanting to forgotten gods, senators, mistresses weeping into silk pillows 2 streets away. Somewhere, someone is being murdered. Or making love, or both. You press your face into a sweat-drenched pillow and pray for silence. But silence is a myth. And morning, it comes like a curse. The city never sleeps, it hungers. And by dawn, it's ready to eat you all over again. Even the sunrise brings dread, because you've made it through one day, but Rome demands more. And so, the nightmare loops. But maybe, just maybe, you think, at least the city works. At least it functions. Yes. That's the most maddening part of all. Somehow miraculously Rome works. They built roads, aqueducts, libraries, laws, monuments. They mapped the stars and created systems that would echo through history for 2,000 years. They invented concrete, and it still outlasts your apartment. They spoke Latin, and now half the modern world speaks its children. Their architecture inspired parliaments and palaces. Their republics, their senates, their brutal political machines. We copied them. But all of that, every grand idea, every marble pillar was built on backs like yours, on blood, on starvation and survival. Not by emperors, not by elites, but by people who woke up like you on straw mats, in rooms of smoke and filth, praying not for glory, but to survive until night. You, with no soap, no medicine, no rights. You, breathing poison and drinking fear. You, who bowed to gods you didn't choose and laws that didn't protect you. You, who walked through sewage, scraped through war, and wiped with a sponge that whispered shame. Rome wasn't built with gold. It was forged in sweat, fueled by fear, sealed with screams. And it lasted because people endured, because they had no choice. But you couldn't last a day. You'd crumbled by midday. You'd beg for clean water before breakfast. You'd cry for a soft pillow after your first brush with a public sponge. You'd sell your soul for air conditioning, for aspirin, for 5-minute delivery in a toilet and that's okay. Because Rome wasn't made for comfort. It was made for conquest. But now, you sit here safe, clean, mildly horrified. And maybe that's enough. Because someone once walked through fire and blood and sewage so you could scroll, sip, and sleep. Be grateful for that. Now, imagine another world. A princess, not of palaces, but of pain. A woman forged in rebellion, grit, and the vow to never wash her hair until her enemies lay shattered. She was born to wage war. Before Rome broke men, she built herself into legend. But that's another story, and it begins with blood. A boy drops bread. A beggar catches it. The boy's father beats the beggar. No one stops him. You do nothing. Because now you understand. Justice doesn't live here. Only order through terror. A soldier hands you a coin. You take it. He says, "Congratulations. You belong now." You don't smile. Belonging to Rome isn't a gift. It's a sentence. And then, finally, you're granted a rest day. But what is rest when your soul won't stop screaming? You sit at the edge of the Tiber, watch the water flow. You think of jumping. Not to die, but to disappear. You remember your name. Just once. It sounds foreign now. Like a story someone else lived. You laugh. Not from joy. From madness. And in that laugh, you finally understand. You didn't fail Rome. Rome failed you. Because no human, not even the strongest, can survive a world built entirely on you. And that's why you wouldn't last a day. Night has fallen. But the terror doesn't sleep. Because in the Roman Empire, darkness isn't silence. It's a different kind of cruelty. You survived the day. Your body is bruised, your mind shredded, but don't get comfortable. Because Rome always wants more. You thought the sun was your enemy. The moon reveals worse things. Things that crawl from shadows. Things that wear human faces. And predator hearts. You huddle in an alley. No blanket. No food. Only a crumbling wall. And your heartbeat. And even that feels like a threat. You hear whispers. Not in Latin. Not in words you understand. Just intentions. Dark ones. A man nearby is dragged away. No scream, just silence. Because in Rome, screams invite others. You want to close your eyes, but sleep is surrender. And surrender here is suicide. You remember your home, the softness of your bed, your mother's voice, all of it now feels like fiction. A rat scurries over your leg. You don't flinch. Why would you? You've seen worse. You've become worse. Dawn doesn't bring hope. It brings obligation. Another day to serve. Another chance to fail. They say Rome is eternal, but to you, it's an endless hell loop. You're trapped. Not by walls, but by repetition. Today, you're sent to the countryside. You think, oh, peace. But no. It's just another mask. One that hides brutality with beauty. You're taken to a Roman villa, owned by a noble. He smiles. But not at you. At what he can make you do. He assigns you to the fields. Endless. Burning. You pluck olives, grapes, grain. But it's not farming. It's slow-motion torture. The overseer is bored. And bored men with whips are dangerous. A girl collapses. Too much heat. Too little water. She's kicked. Not because she disobeyed, but because she embarrassed them. You try to help her. They beat you too. And now, you're both broken. Together. And, still, unseen. At night, the villa hosts a party. Laughter, wine, music. The nobles gorge. You serve them. One drops a goblet. You're ordered to clean it. You move too slow. He slaps you. Everyone laughs. Your humiliation is their theater. Your pain, their applause. Later, you're offered a reward. Meat and wine. But you hesitate. You've learned. Kindness in Rome is poison. You accept. You eat. You drink. And soon, you vomit. Because even generosity is just another form of punishment. The villa dog eats better than you. Is treated better than you. And still, you're told, be grateful. You overhear the noble brat about how cheap you were. Barely a coin. Like buying a tool. He's not wrong. Because here, you're not human. You're inventory. You escape the villa after weeks. Not through rebellion. Through replacement, a new slave arrives. You're transferred like cattle, back to the city. Back to the filth, the noise, the eternal oppression. You visit the temples, not for prayer, but for shade. And you notice something. The gods are silent, their faces blank. They don't offer comfort. Only a cold permanence. One priest catches your eye. He whispers, this is the test. Endure. You want to believe him. But you've run out of belief. Rome doesn't teach you faith. It teaches you resignation. Your body is now a map of scars. Each one tells a story, not of survival, but of systematic suffering. You spot a familiar face. Another foreigner. You lock eyes. He looks away. Because connection is dangerous. Compassion is a liability. You walk the streets now with numbness, not fear, not rage, just hollow obedience. You once thought death would be your end. Now you realize you've been dying since the moment you arrived. You walk past an execution, a woman accused of treason. They pour molten lead down her throat. You don't flinch. You don't look away. Because in Rome, pain becomes background noise.